And my name Andre Donald, and well, we do apologize because we are off air for a bit, and that was due to a power failure on Main Street and Stairs, and we've sorted out. There are a couple of issues in here that we had to sort out, and we've sorted those out. So we're back on stream. Now, what we have got to understand is that there are so many great people who are from the parish of St. Patrick's, and it's just you continue to see the greatness day after day after day. You continue to see the greatness of every single person. Now, a couple of days ago, when all the different modules that would show you what could happen in relation to the storm, I went next door to purchase something, and Hubert Whyte said to me, "Hey, what are we doing?" I'm like, "What are we doing?" He says, "Yeah, you are the best broadcaster in Grenada. I have the most experience in modern times as a forecaster and meteorologist from the Morris Bishop International Airport. As a matter of fact, Whyte would have worked even at Pearls." He says, I've have the most experience. I can still walk, I can still talk, and I can still be of service to the people of Grenada. So based on that, Andre, I'd like us to twin so that we can share information about, well, the storm wasn't even named yet, but he just saw something, and that he just knew based on experience that, hey, this one was going to be a bit of a bother. So by the time it was named and I contacted him again, he says, yes. He says, you name it, you say when, and we can do this together. So I said to him, what about doing it on the morning? And he's like, the morning when? I said, the morning, Sunday morning, because it looks like it's going to be something like, he says, okay, fine, Andre, no problem, we'll do it on Sunday morning. And I was the one who was late because we were supposed to start at 9 o'clock, but I had a couple of things to do other than that. So by the time I got to him, it was after 9 o'clock already, and I had to apologize. But he's here in studio with me so that we can give you relevant information and make you more aware, and also at the same time be able to pass tidbits that will help you to be safer in this particular situation. So I take this opportunity now to say good morning to my good brother, Hubert Whyte. Good morning, Whitey. How are you doing?
Good morning to you, Andre, and good morning to all the listeners, locally, abroad, everywhere, online, etc. And I appreciate all your accolade. And I'd like to state here that my presence here came out of a recommendation that was made to a committee of the National Emergency and Advisory Council. That is the Public Awareness and Education Committee, which is headed by the manager of GIS. The recommendation is that each media house should have somebody that more or less specializes in weather, have some knowledge of weather, and the Met Office was willing to do the training so that they can break down the forecast when it comes to the studio. They could be here to really explain to the public in a more simpler term. Mm-hmm. So we are not competing with the Met Office, or we're not going to say something what the Met Office didn't say. We're going to complement them and augment what they say and bring it in a term that is more easily understood by the ordinary man. So here I am as your humble servant. I hope I could fulfill that task. As I said, one of the things we could do if we could join the Met Office to speak to Mr. Jude Andre Charles, and if we can get some information from him and quiz him a bit as to that system. Because, Andre, that system is a serious one. And I want to emphasize the word is a serious one. And not just serious for Grenada, but the entire island chain, or a large portion of the island chain.
All right, I want to stop you right there. But I'm going to stop you right there, not want to. Going to stop you right there. Because I want you to take us back so persons would have a better understanding as it relates to a depression, a storm, a hurricane? Quickly, where does it all start? What causes it to start? And then we can come to now.
Okay, during the hurricane season, this system can start in the Atlantic Ocean, that is the far east of us. It can start in the Caribbean Sea, which is basically west of us. Whenever it starts in that area, we are happy. And it can also start in the Gulf of Mexico, and we are more happy. But when it starts in the Atlantic and it is moving towards us, that's where we become concerned, like Beryl did. As a matter of fact, Andre, it is very unusual for a storm to start that early in the Atlantic Ocean. And when I say early, early as in Beryl, because Beryl will be B will be second. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, you hardly get the first three names of the alphabet being serious storm. And that is why these names are recycled. Mm-hmm. Because whenever a storm reaches category 4, the name is retired, they don't use it again. So you'll never find an Ivan again, you'll never find a Janet again. No. So, Beryl, when you're gone, we'll never hear about you again because you're already a major storm, more or less.
She's already at 4?
No, she's not a category 3, but heading there, and based on the forecast, she will.
She will get to
because
4.
Rapidly intensifying, and all the conditions are perfect for the building of that storm.
Okay, so basically they all start around the Cape Verde Islands and come.
Yes, that is what
they come west.
Yeah, and they move towards the west. So, for example, it starts as a tropical wave, which is just a perturbation or a little pulse in the normal wind flow. Mm-hmm. And then it can develop into what area of disturbed weather. So then it becomes an area of concern. And the National Hurricane Center published a tropical weather outlook, which they mention it and give it a chance of development. But what is serious about it, Andrew, we are located 12 degrees north of the equator. That's the latitude. Mm-hmm. So whenever the hurricane season says this thing starts to intensify and it seems to have a center and it's concentrated anyway south of 10 degrees north, it's a serious cause for concern. And we are 12, and I think Beryl is somewhere around 10 point something. So it's very, very serious. And that's so. Then after a tropical depression, that's when it has a closed circulation and it has a minimum central pressure. Then it intensifies into a tropical storm. That's when it acquires wind speed somewhere of 35 miles per hour upward. And it continues to grow. And once it reaches 74 miles per hour, it is now categorized as a hurricane. And then I think when it's about 115 miles per hour, it becomes major hurricane and upward up to category
115.
5. I think 115 there about. I'm subject to correction. Yeah. There's quite a lot of years I've done this. What is interesting though, and for the nation listening, they are all called tropical cyclones. Okay. So whether from time it depends on a depression, it's a cyclone. Then it becomes a storm, it becomes a named storm. So they're all cyclones. Okay. And the point is, what differentiates them is the wind speed. Because you could have a storm or just a depression that can give you much, much, much more rain than a hurricane. So the difference is the wind speed.
Okay. Now, I've heard the term, this one is traveling fast, this one is traveling slow. Which one is worst? Because there's no better.
The one that is traveling slow is worse. Why? The one that is traveling slow will have more time over the warm waters to pick up more moisture and more energy. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's like the one that is traveling fast will come fast and go fast. But the one that is traveling slow, it will linger. And then your destruction or the devastating effect will be more long-lived. But when I travel fast, it will be short-lived. Come quick and go quick. Fortunately, Beryl is moving about 21 miles per hour, which is good. It will approach us very quick, but it will not linger. Unfortunately, though, there is one setback to that. Landmass usually hold it back a bit. Mm-hmm. So they slow when they reach landmass. But Grenada is not extensive as it would if it go through Hispaniola or through Cuba.
Yeah, because we only like 12 miles wide?
12 miles wide.
12 miles wide. So that's not
You can walk that in an hour.
Well, that's if you're not Andre, you can walk that in an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the speed that barrel is moving at, you're aware of the speed right now that barrel is
Yeah, I
moving
think it's
at?
21 miles per hour.
21 miles per
Forward
hour.
speed.
Forward speed. So you're saying that is quote unquote something that is not too bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Okay, because you can't words like good you can't use in this situation. No.
It will be less destructive. 21 miles per hour to be exact.
To be exact. At this particular
Yeah, we have storm that has moved at 8 miles per hour. God, dangerous.
Okay. So 21 miles.
Yeah,
Right.
forward speed.
Now, why? We are in the situation that we are under a hurricane warning. Not a watch anymore. We're not watching. We are
upgraded to a warning.
And what does okay, so give us the different levels.
Okay. A tropical storm watch, for example, we might have storm watch. That means you have storm conditions, storm force winds between about 48 hours. If you're on a storm warning, you will get storm force winds in 36 hours. Okay. And so it is with hurricane. If it's a hurricane watch, you can expect hurricane force winds within 48 hours. If you're on a hurricane warning, as you get closer, you'll expect that within 36 hours. So as we are now, we're under a warning. So in 36 hours, which is a day and a half, we can expect hurricane force winds.
A day and a half. So do that calculation for me. You know, I'm not very good at the maths.
So let's say now it's about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So 10 o'clock tomorrow will be a day. And half of a day is 5 hours. So 10 and 5 minus 12. So by 2 o'clock tomorrow, we're looking at.
2 o'clock
But
tomorrow in terms of tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah. But again, too, there's a lot of uncertainty about that because, you know, the distribution of cloudiness and convection is not always even, or it's not always symmetrical, always asymmetrical. So sometimes the system is dynamic. Sometimes you could send a whole set of convection ahead of the center. Sometimes the center pops around and then the center move away. In that case, you hardly find that because it's a growing storm. And the storm has developed so far a strong eye wall and what we call a CDO, a central dense overcast. So there's a heap of clouds over the eye. All that is signs of intensification and growing.
There's always a terminology that is used, Whyte. That storm is disorganized. Oh, that storm is organized. What does that mean?
Okay, for example, if you have winds that are opposing the storm, low-level winds moving in opposite direction, instead of east to west, moving west to east, you call that sharing. In other words, you find something is trying to move on. You're trying to run, and somebody grab you by your head and pulling you back. Definitely, you would not be running fast. Something is unbugging you, or is like taking your shirt off you. So that will more or less like I say, there is an orange, and you take out the peel off. That will try to peel off, so it gets less organized, and that is one of the things you have sharing, vertical sharing. Then you also have mountain tops, not like Grenada, but for example, you move to Cuba. The height of the range in Cuba will sort of get the storm disorganized. But in getting disorganized, Andrew, it will produce a lot of rain. Because there's rain in it. So it's like you have a sponge full of water, and what it disorganizes does is squeeze that sponge. So in getting disorganized, so it passes over a landmass like Cuba, it will let go a lot of rain, but when you reach to the western tip of Cuba, it will be weaker than it entered into the east. And we also have land temperatures are lower than sea temperatures, or higher than lower. So what you find out is land temperature will destroy the storm also. So there's some of the factors that cause the storm to disintegrate. But I say in disintegrating, it will produce a lot of showers. And that is what is done when you do cloud seeding. You seed a cloud, and you hope you do it out in the ocean, but sometimes it comes over the land and produce all the rain and destroy you.
Right. So you say Grenada is not enough to change in relation to our mountains.
No.
We like flatlands for the storm.
No, not really flatlands, but the extent of the land. It is not a wide the square miles is very small to have any significant effect.
Okay. All right. So, do you have, based on what you're looking at in relation to your, is it models or modules? Models.
Models.
Based on the models that you've been looking at, where is Beryl now, and when is Beryl expected to make some sort of a landfall, if you call it that?
Okay, well, to start with, I really haven't been looking at the models. The Hurricane Center is one to look at all the models and they come to the conclusion. And when you look at models, I'm surprised to know one model might put the storm going to England.
Right.
Yeah. So, based on the experience, they look at the different models and they come to a conclusion. All the models come together, usually call it a spaghetti diagram, and they look at the best fit of how much models are in agreement. At the Met Office, they use some models. They use about 3 models there, but basically, the Hurricane Center does all that for you and then come to the conclusion when they look at all the models. But they definitely give you a discussion of how they come to the conclusion. What is models in the UK models, the GFS models, and different models like that. When I just started in Met, there was only one model. I forget the name now. There's one called the beta and advection model. There's one called Clipper. That's the only one we started with. Clipper means climatology and persistent. You know, look at past storms in that area, what they did. And that model works very well for about 36 hours. After that, you go haywire. Okay. But now you have models running much, much more longer prediction than now. So based on what they are saying here, when they come to all the conclusions, the cone, they probably try to call a cone of probability. And so far, they extend that cone all up to the Yucatan Peninsula. And that is in the area of Belize. So from here now, they have the warnings posted. This morning, they have extended the warning. Tobago is now on the hurricane warning.
Tobago.
And Tobago is south of us. So Tobago southward, Barbados to the northeast, and up to St. Lucia in the north, all under hurricane warning. Watches and so forth are posted for Martinique. Interestingly, Martinique may be or should be, or maybe because it's classified as a warning, but the powers that be. When you issue a warning, it is not the Met Office will issue a warning. The minister, the minister responsible for national security. So, for example, when you read it, it say the government of St. Lucia has placed St. Lucia under warning. So, in terms of Martinique, they are waiting on France. The government of France is the one that's responsible for putting Martinique and Guadeloupe under watch or warning. The government of Barbados put St. Vincent and Barbados under warning. The government of Trinidad put Grenada, Tobago under warning.
Hold on. Stop right there. Why does Trinidad have to do that for us and Barbados has to do it for the Vincents?
Barbados, Trinidad, St. Vincent is a growing Met Office. They don't have the full capability. We are a bit advanced, but we still need something to be done. I foresee in 2 years' time that arrangement will be changed.
Meaning Grenada?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're working towards that. But it doesn't only work that way because you are not that capable. It's also it's a nice arrangement. For example, if a storm wipes out Trinidad, that responsibility Trinidad have, Barbados will have to take it over. And vice versa. It's an arrangement that is hammered out and signed every year in the Hurricane Region 4 Hurricane meeting. And then you have countries like Antigua has a lot of responsibility. Barbados is also responsible for Dominica. Antigua is responsible for itself, Barbuda, most of the small islands around there that doesn't have a Met Office. Antigua has a heavy, Anguilla, all of them. St. Kitts has a Met Office, but not fully developed. So Antigua issues they're watching it. Not without consultation. Because yesterday, the Hurricane Center, the Met Office in Trinidad and Grenada, and NADMA had a meeting. And they discussed what decision we're taking and why. And it's a very tough decision, Andre. When I was at the HEM, we had a decision to make. a storm, it wasn't a hurricane, it was a minimal storm. It was expected to pass north of Grenada through the Grenadines Island. And Grenada is under warning. And by rule, let's say if you're under warning, you close the country. But I boldly stood up because the head of the Met Office is an advisor to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister doesn't have to take the advice, but if you don't, I wouldn't say the word. As when the Prime Minister would say, excuse my French.
Yes.
I wouldn't say it, but excuse my French, I have it in mind to say. So, that day I said, listen, and Trinidad agreed with me. We'll put Grenada under warning, but we would not close. I was condemned for that. The reason why, the seat of government is in St. George. And if a storm would not disturb the seat of government, why close the port? Why put the country at a standstill? Bills cannot be paid. People will have the goods in the bond and they'll have to pay the port authority more rent. The airport will go, there was no need. And that decision worked out so good because there was hot sun in the city. So that is some of the decision you have to make and pass that to the Minister of National Security, in that case the Prime Minister, or designate. The previous government had designated a minister to deal with that. So that left the PM with full time to see cricket and everything. So, and then, or you get the cab sec. And when we come to the conclusion of all this discussion, the National Emergency Advisory Council, then that has to go to the Governor General.
Okay.
I mean, she wouldn't stop it, but it's just a paperwork.
Yeah, paperwork.
Because the
She has to rubber
Prime
stamp
Minister
it.
cannot close the country.
Only the Governor General can.
The Governor General have to sign on it. So I guess whatever decision was taken yesterday, that was before the Governor General. I think the Prime Minister said, based on shelter activation, there would not be schools at least, so most likely it will be a closed day tomorrow in terms of commerce. Normally what they do, they ask hardware stores and supermarkets in particular to open for some hours for people to get the final supplies, which they should have gotten before. And do it in such a way that the staff will have time to go home to do their own level of preparation.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that question.
Yes,
If
that
you're
is
asking
exactly
them to go along
So
with
most times
happens
what
to them?
you find happen, some of the larger businesses, they will do a shift system. So they say, since Saturday, they tell some, go home and do the preparation, and some will work Monday, etc. And at least try to close by midday maybe.
But that has to, that decision has to be made by the owner manager of the company. However, but that owner manager of the company must be getting some sort of information that will tell him or her that something like that may happen.
And very interesting, because I have to not chastise but encourage people. Every large business in Grenada has a disaster plan. And it is
Or should have.
Most they have. Okay. Hubert has, Grenlake, all of them. And there is a meeting when they have to submit it to NADMA and they look at it. Because, for example, the supermarkets and the importers come under a subcommittee that deals with food. And that should be chaired by the manager of marketing board. I don't know who chaired that now. So they have to report, for example, that after a storm, this food is very important for survival, the storage and whatnot and whatnot. So they must have a plan and submit as to what procedures they have to make sure that the storeroom is secured. So after suppose disaster, we can have something to fall back on. Also, something that is done is safe house. Supermarkets and large business supply the police with a safe house, a little room within the business place. I don't know much about it, but there's a recommendation. So that you could have 2 or 3 police there. They should have maybe a microwave, a coffee maker, so they can spend the night there. They'll be part of security, and there'll be, in other words, a distribution of officers. So that, for example, if you look at my good friend Calico, if you supply a safe house in Freconte, that will be excellent. Freconte is a highly populated area in Granadas Valley. It will be a deterrent for looting, and also it secures your own business, and it secures the police too. The police should have more diverse facility, because there's nothing saying the police station cannot come down. So the police station can come down, the roof is gone. They will have a few officers in this allocated and safely located safe house that they can operate from.
Why? But we don't get all this information before. I mean, like, why is it that this information is not filtered through to all and sundry?
Andrew, one of the problems that we have is that the subcommittees of NADMA, which is 17 subcommittees, they are very lackadaisical in meeting. And I know when others they will try to tweak it and for example, the Public Awareness and Education Committee, every member of the media has a seat in a committee. And sometimes we get half meeting, we barely get 3 people. I remember raising that with you when you suggest that each meeting should be Zoom. But from now on, with your approval, whenever this committee meets, I would like to represent Real FM.
Well, of course, without saying you can.
Yeah, because it's a very important
The
committee.
interesting thing, too, I did say to you, hey, this meeting should be by Zoom. But what is alarming is that I've never gotten an invitation.
Yes.
And that is alarming. And yesterday, when I realized what the situation really was, and we were told that there's going to be a press conference at 6:30, I reached out to Leslie. As a matter of fact, you're the one who told me. And I reached out to Leslie and said, yo, Les, what's up, girl? Blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, I said, okay, fine, give me a holler if we are on time. And she said, okay, fine, 6:30, you're working with that. And then message, 7:30, you're working with that. And then 8 o'clock. And then I'm like, no, I can't wait anymore. And then by that time, we didn't have power in this spots too. So we could not have brought that briefing by the Prime Minister and Dr. Walters and Mr. Tamer. Yeah, we couldn't have brought it because there's no power in this part of the Soteas area. But again, why? And I've always said, you have a plethora of radio stations across the country. Now, I'm not here to say, well, which ones to choose. But if you choose one per parish, because you have in St. Andrew, you have one in St. Patrick, you have in St. George's, and you have in Carriacou. So if you choose one, and you outfit that one and you say, okay, fine, what you are being outfitted with, this is only for emergency situations. So Real FM, you are expected to provide information so that people in St. Mark, St. Patrick, parts of Carriacou, even if you have one in Carriacou too, but you have, so Real FM can take care of this area, and then the one in St. Andrew can take care of St. Andrew, St. David's, and parts of St. George's, whatever, and St. George's take care of it, and you have one message coming through, and nobody has to be worried about up in the mountains, because power more than likely may go up in the mountains.
Yes.
But if you have these smaller transmitters that are like home base, transmitter here, 100 watts with couple of batteries because you're doing solar power and everything, then we don't go off. We are here 24/7. I remember why I worked. It was Brett. That's what it was. And I worked the entire night. The GBN I was working at that time. I worked the entire night, and then the morning, at about 6 o'clock in the morning, a lady from St. Mark, Miss Modlin, is married to O'Neill.
Okay.
She called and she says, look, thank you. Without you, I wouldn't have made it through the night. I don't know what would have happened. Because I programmed as normal, keeping them abreast, but just played music, had fun, laughed. And the people were so very appreciative of that. And this is the same thing that we can still do. But
because one of the things I suggested at that committee meeting that they say that you need more regular information. When a storm is threatening you, the Hurricane Center gives you information every 3 hours. And the changes are not much, especially in a slow-moving storm. So what we suggested, for example, that person in the radio station or the television station, they should be trained in such a way that they could come up with background information. You notice, for example, cricket is playing and rain come. And the commentators go back, oh, you know, this is the ground where Clive Lloyd did this. And so that personnel could be able to fill in while we're waiting on relevant and new information. That person will be feeling, oh, you remember that's where, let's bring our minds back to Ivan. What was the situation? And then you could refresh them. And you could bring data. And data is very, very, very important. And of course, Andre, something I want to speak about too is action we take for surviving. Because one of the things I heard yesterday, and I wouldn't say who said it, but we'll listen, that you should take action to save property. And if you take any release from the Hurricane Center, that is not something, Andrew, that is mentioned. Surprisingly.
Say this again?
Action to save property.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something that is really mentioned.
Actions is to save lives, not property.
And a matter of fact, lives and livelihood. And that is something I really, really want to stress here. What is livelihood? Now, your house, have a relatively good house, you should be insured. Then, insured or not, it can be rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
But you take, for example, a fisher folk, and I'm speaking to them now. Did you put away your fishing tackles? Did you put away your engine? After the disaster, that's what you're hoping to use now to get money to repair your house. So that's a livelihood. Carpenters, did you put away your saw, your hammer, your tools so that you can start to work? Livelihood. So your action is for life and livelihood. Property come last. And this is what something very important. The farmers out there, for example, by now, there is no need to have your pump installed where it is usually installed. You have to remove your pump. Your pump will be close to the river. By nature, that's what it's for. It should be close by the river. The section that goes to the water to pull the water, which you call the line with the rose head, that should be removed. Something else that the farmers should have been working on, as my plan was to come long before that system. Farmers should be doing continuous evaluation of the farm. Should in case post-disaster, the government gets some funding to help farmers, they would ask you how much tomatoes you had. You didn't check it. And then you come up with some fictitious figure. You had 10,000 trees of tomatoes, and that's not true.
Yeah.
So every month you should be evaluating your farm. How much of that you have, what is the stage, and if possible, log it with your extension officer. So should in case we get anything for compensation, the data is available. And I call it continuous evaluation. Don't wait post-disaster to evaluate. And this is something very, very serious. Something I want to stress on again too. Have you ever wondered why years ago the organization was called NERO and now it is called NADMA?
Yes, I remember it was Nero.
Yeah, why it was called NERO?
I don't know.
Because it was a national emergency relief organization. NADMA is an agency, a management agency. Grenada has signed on to, I think, is the Hyogo Frame of Action in Japan, where they adopt the CDM strategy, Comprehensive Disaster Management. So you don't respond to disaster, you manage disaster. So you have to manage a pre-disaster. Awareness, training, exercise, preparation. During disaster, passing of pertinent information and taking right decision. Post-disaster, evaluation, and relief supply. So it's no longer a relief organization, but it's a disaster management organization. And some of the things I see people buying now, that should have been bought before the hurricane season starts in June. I usually use that analogy. Nobody, you have lived in the US. Nobody in the US wait for storm, for snow to start falling to make sure the heater is working.
No, you can't do that. You have to make sure that thing is working in the summer.
Nobody should wait for when Grenada is on a hurricane warning to start buying basic supply. You might be topping up, but not buying. Andre, believe it or not, I'm a businessman. The shelf life of a tin of corned beef is 8 years. 8 years. So you buy a corned beef long and half a day after the storm, you can eat it and buy a new set. So you have nothing to lose. You don't wait for corned beef to buy corned beef for sardine when Grenada is under warning or battery. You should have that long. And then you have a strain on the supermarket. The members of staff at the supermarket need to get home to do the final preparations and to be with the family, but they have to be serving the public because we try to do things the last moment. So we have to adopt the comprehensive disaster management strategy, the CDM strategy. And I hope one of the things, I don't know who are the people who, members of the committee, we have 2 sections, the East and the West in St. Patrick's. I don't know the members.
I don't know them.
But Andre, I'm glad I'm here to mention something which I saw. I was very, very sad, and I didn't get around to dealing with the person. Letitia Cato Drive. You are quoted that area.
Yes, most definitely.
Right to the bottom, as we descend to, this is a storm drain.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I thought that bridge is a bit too small, but a gentleman doing some farming cut the trees and threw all in the drain. And I wish that person is listening to me now, and I like to say it like you, as be bold, and I'm bold like you. I wish someone who is hearing me ask this gentleman to remove these trees before the day up. Or the police should get there to tell him to move it.
Bottom side or top side?
But it's in the valley.
No, I'm talking about...
Top side, even worse.
Yeah, that's worse.
Because it will block that little drain now.
And may destroy it.
And may destroy it, and then nobody will be able to pass.
Yeah.
So if, for example, the person on Letitia Cato side lost a roof and want to go to the top side to Mr. Healer area for shelter, he will not be able to pass. Because this goodly gentleman cut the trees and all of it, once they move it from where he wants to plant, so he throw it into that storm drain.
Smart Alec, yeah. Smart Alec. Smart Alec. You sometimes wonder, why? Why is it that we don't think? Just think for not a minute, you think for 30 seconds, and that's enough. But we don't think at all. We just continue to just do things, and we do things that pleases us. And you talk about that, but even in our major rivers, Whyte, these things continue to happen. The fridges, the washing machines, the whatever, the stoves, they're just tossed into the river. And you expect the river to deal with it. What is it going to do with it but bring it down, 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 until it probably gets to the beach and causes more damage because somebody gets injured, that's one. Or it piles up in a particular area, becomes unsightly, and, oh my God, you don't...
And I'm very concerned about we here in St. Patrick's, because as it is now, that storm, although very compact, any impact, I believe, the north of the island will have it worse. And it's not very long ago, we had that heavy rains in cities. And infrastructural repairs started in some places, albeit late. There's this wall in Samaritan, below Samaritan Hill.
Yeah, that.
It is still in the construction phase. And we can lose it. I just hope, God forbid, we don't, because a lot of money is spent there.
Yeah, a lot of money.
So if the water get behind, between the wall and the road,
you can just push it.
You can move it.
You can move the wall.
Regardless of how strong it is.
I also saw it, and I'm trying to figure out on whose advice the Maho area and the stones that were packed. Yes, great idea, but did you do any mitigation up the river that would slow the river down before it gets to that area?
Or not slow, but ensure a smooth flow. Because, for example, in my area, and I'm very worried, I had the flood pass right through my land.
That's in the McVeigh area.
Yeah. And it brought several trees down, and it's blocking the river.
Yeah.
So it has narrowed the river channel. What we started doing, we cut some of it, and as I said, it's a win-win situation. We use it to burn coals, but I haven't cut all of it yet. So this is one of the concerns I have. And maybe sometimes when we see government issue the devolution program where they cut some of the heavy grass in the river, we don't understand and appreciate why. But that removing some of that heavy grass encourages a smooth flow.
That's when moving the grass up
Yes,
inside of the river.
Yes.
So that was a good thing.
It is a good thing. It encourages a smooth flow. As a matter of fact, one of the things I believe is send people, they're only doing it where it's more visible, close to the road. But even in the interior, they should have people inspecting it and see where there's something need, because there's an area where a lot of bamboo stools slide, and it's almost completely blocking the river. And that causes the river to overflow its bank and create havoc to farmers. You know? And I lost several nutmeg trees in that last episode of rain that we had.
Now, people are rushing about at this time. You know, the motorists, they're gassing up.
Yeah.
The mothers and fathers and elders in the home, they are ensuring that they have enough to tide them over. Unfortunately, we had a situation where one of our major water companies had to recall their water at this time.
Yes.
That is rather unfortunate. But it is what it is. What advice are you giving as a businessman, one, and I know you got to go back to your business now, as a businessman, one, and two, as a immediate past manager of the Met Office? What advice are you giving to people, not just in St. Patrick, but throughout Grenada, and especially to those who live in what we call flood-prone areas? What advice do you give to them?
Well, for example, number one, know where your closest shelter is. In case you have to move, prepare to move. People who are on medication, make sure you stock up on your medication. And I'd love to mention that particular one. People who are on insulin. Insulin has to be stored in a refrigerator. You might lose electricity, most likely. You get a nice container with some ice and put your insulin there, because health is very important. Because you do not want to put a weight on the health system, they have to rush you to a doctor. The nurses have the domestic situation to take care of. And then in a disaster, you have to prepare for wounded people who are wounded. People who maybe a fallen tree might strike them or something, you have to prepare for them, so you don't have to put a strain on them. Also, something I see which is, we have to be more civic-minded. You might see a drain in your area, the street close to you. All it might do is take a spade and remove 2 spades of dirt. And that might go a long way. We're asking people to look around your community and see what you can move to present. Because flood is not just caused by a volume of water. Flood and water moving elsewhere is caused mainly during obstruction. So you have to try and move the obstruction. And you don't have to wait on anybody to do that. Remember, I heard somebody calling a calling program and said there is a dead dog. And quote unquote, that is in a country area where there is a street cleaning unit there. But there is a dead dog.
You want to take that call? It's real. It's 91.9, 91.5, www.realfmgrenada.com. Good morning, Grenada. Good morning, Carriacou. Good morning, P. Martinique and the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. Andre Donald together today with Hubert Whyte, and we're basically taking a look at what is expected in Grenada. Stay with us.
Yes, sir.
Where you You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. Where you go when you're walking, what you say when you're talking, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful, careful. We have to prepare to meet the challenges of life without fear. Greed and jealousy, hatred and envy, man, you have to move with care in that jungle out there. You gotta be careful.
It's real. It's 91.9, 14 mid-cities after the 10 o'clock hour. Good morning, Grenada. Good morning, Carriacou, PD Martinique, too. Speaking of saying good morning to my friends in Grenada and my friends in Carriacou and PD Martinique, especially you at this time, and well, us here in St. Patrick, and based on all the models and based on what the experts are saying, look like it's going to be a St. Patrick, Carriacou, PD Martinique thing. One of the things is that I don't believe that people understand how serious this thing can be. It can get to category 4, and that is not something simple to deal with. But I'm not the expert. Hubert is an expert when it comes to that. Hubert, how serious is this thing?
Okay, very serious, Andre. And I'd like to go back to the old adage, and I believe it. God is a Grenadian. And that is why he sent me here to provide the warning. That's how God operates. He gives you the warning. And he enlightens you to make a decision, the right decision. And if you don't make the right decision, you have yourself to blame. There have a lot of hazards that are reported that are associated with tropical cyclone. And interestingly, though, Andre, a lot of people don't agree, but the most dangerous of the hazards is water related. Mm-hmm. That's what takes the most lives. Wind take roof can be replaced, but drowning is the worst. And the Hurricane Center has this, I don't want to call it a motto, but this mantra: one death is one too many. One death is one too many. There's a hazard that we don't look at, which is storm surge, which is very dangerous. Mm-hmm. And also there is one called rip current.
That's in the sea.
That's in the sea. Mm-hmm. Rip current is very dangerous. Sometimes people tend to go to the sea, they find it outside, get calm, and they go to the sea. And it look okay, and there is a rip current. The rip currents operate in a way that it push the water back to the sea. And you try to swim shore, and you will feel a very strong current. The only way you get away from a rip current, if you're a good swimmer, you relax outside it since the current, till the current stops. I noticed it happening in Palmis, where there is a load of gravels just in front of the beach, and there's a section of water, so it sort of divide the beach. Mm-hmm. After a time, this water wants to go out, so it cut a track through the gravels, and it goes out with a lot of speed and a lot of power. Mm-hmm. If anyone is swimming out on the beach and experience rip current, don't try to swim against the rip current. Swim, either you remain there just treading the water until the current gets weak, or you swim parallel to the beach until you reach an area where the rip current is not effective, and then swim shore. If you try to swim against the rip current, you are one of the best swimmers lose their life in rip current. Andre, sometimes it's sad, but sometimes the question people ask me, they see weather and hurricane and the related warnings as an exercise in comedy. They take it as a joke. Mm-hmm. I'm appealing to everyone hearing me. And even those who not hearing me, when they get it secondhand for people who listen to us this morning, Hurricane Beryl is a serious hurricane. The only thing positive you have might be for us, since it's very compact, we may not feel the hurricane force winds based on where it makes landfall. If it makes landfall around St. Lucia, we would not get very strong winds. But if it makes landfall through the Grenadines, God forbid. The areas from Tobago south to St. Lucia in the north is under hurricane warning, which means we can have hurricane condition affecting us within 36 hours. The maximum sustained winds can get up to 120 miles per hour. And let me explain what is maximum sustained winds. That is winds that will last for a very long time. But you can get gusts, which is a slight rise in the wind speed over 30 miles in a storm. So the gust is very, very dangerous, not just the maximum sustained winds. If that storm after it passes, reach a category 5, my dear people out there, there's no house that is constructed to withstand a category 5 hurricane. You expect to lose all your house in the category 5. That's what happened to Dominica a few years ago. Was it Oma? Or Maria, one of them?
Maria, yeah.
And we should not only study Beryl. There's another system right behind Beryl, moving to our area. And Beryl is only the second system. Normally we have strong system in the middle of the alphabet. Janet, Ivan, etc. From M, J, K, this area, Gilbert. But to have a category storm, a major hurricane, as a second named storm for the year, I cannot overemphasize how serious that is. And for the need for us to take all the action we can now to save life, livelihood, and if possible, property. Hurricane shelters will be activated, know where your shelters are located. And please know there are basic rules governing shelters. You cannot take no alcohol beverage to a shelter. No smoking of any kind, be it cigarette or other substances, are not to be taken to a hurricane center to be smoked. You have to listen to the warden. If you bring a device to play music, you should have your headphone so that you should not disturb others. You also have to take your supply of blankets and pillows to the shelter. That is not guaranteed. You also have to take your medication if necessary to the shelter. Please secure important documents. And also at the shelter, you don't expect any food basket provision to kick in at the shelter before 36 hours. So you must walk with a supply of water and a supply of food to take care of yourself in the shelter. As I always say, we have to hope for the better, but prepare for the worst. Hurricane Beryl is here, and it is real, as Real FM telling it to you now.
But Whyte, I take this opportunity to thank you so very much for coming here and giving the information as you just did. Fingers crossed and hoping for the best. We will be able to have a conversation again after the storm has passed, and we will be able to give persons information as it comes to hand, especially from the NADMA organization. Again, Hubert, thank you so very much.
You're welcome, Andre.
All right, take care of yourself. Friends one, friends all, good morning. God bless you. Take care. Am I going to be wrong? Yeah, I'll be wrong. Don't worry.